I never imagined I would be a stepmom. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it, it is fucking hard. Last year for Mother's Day, I wrote this poem. It is not our day. There's no Hallmark card. We can still be celebrated. We are worth celebrating. We are worth celebrating. Stop minimizing yourself because others do. Okay, at least try. Being a stepmom is like walking a tightrope. Steps taken gingerly, steps to keep from failing, steps to keep from falling. All while holding your promise to love these kids as if they are your own. Balancing feelings and insecurities, your own. Boundaries and feelings, everyone else. We walk with responsibility, but without authority. As the crowd looks on, we take another step. Stepmoms stepping. We get to the other side. As we climb down, we hear the crowd cheering on all the moms. It's time to cheer for you. Cheer for your mom. Cheer for the mom that made you a stepmom. She gave you the title you now adorn. We are worth celebrating. We are worth celebrating. Stop minimizing yourself because others do. Keep stepping. So, as you can see, I was feeling some kind of way about Mother's Day and being a stepmom, but I have to tell you, I've really come to embrace the title and the role. So let's get to it. Growing up, we are asked what we want to be when we're older, all the time. How can we even know at 5 years old? I'm almost 46, and I'm still trying to figure it out. I can tell you this. I promise you, no one grows up saying, I want to be a stepmom. I didn't even know what a stepmom was. I had a step-grandpa, but I don't think I knew what that meant either. He was my grandpa. He loved me, and he was always very supportive of me, like a grandpa. Yesterday would have been his birthday. Grandpa Stan got me my first computer. It was an IBM, and it had a floppy disk. I played Larry Bird versus Dr. J on that computer. If that was what step relatives did, then game on. But what did stepmoms do? I had no clue. Stepmoms have always had a bad rap. Stepmoms that don't have their own kids have an even worse rap, and maybe even a special place in hell. Do you know why? Because we had a ton of fun because we didn't have any kids. In all seriousness, though, it is hard to step into parenting when you don't have your own kids. And quite frankly, there's a judgment that you will have no idea what you're doing. That judgment might totally be justified, but it makes that job that much harder. So why do stepmoms have an awful reputation? Well, they're seen as evil, or as a killer. Like, how is this even fair? Even the word step comes from Old English stiop, which means sense of loss, deprivation, or inferiority. And quite frankly, we can blame Walt Disney. Have you ever noticed how the parents are always dead in Disney movies? We literally watched Bambi's mom get shot. I remember babysitting a young girl, and we watched Bambi. She just happened to realize that Bambi's mom got shot the night I was babysitting her, but not when she watched it with her parents 30 times prior to that evening. It was with me. I was not equipped for this. She was not either. Do you have any idea how awful it is to calm down a little child that just realized Bambi's mom was shot while her mom left her with a virtual stranger? And you need to explain to her that her mom, in fact, is coming home? This was the early 90s. There was no cell phones. I couldn't call her mom so this little cherub could hear her voice and tell her that she was coming home for her. Thanks, Walt. It's amazing I ever babysat again after that. So let's go down Disney Lane, shall we? I should start out by saying that I grew up on Disney animated films. I always wanted to be a Disney princess. I could sing all of the songs. I will spare you tonight. I owned the films on VHS and DVD. I loved Disney so much that I interned at Disney World when I was in college. All that said, why are all of Disney's mom and dads dead? It started with Snow White. She lost both of her parents at a young age and was living with her wicked stepmother, the Queen. Not wanting to be outshined by her stepdaughter's beauty, the Queen forces her to work as a maid, and every day the Queen asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of us all?" For years, the mirror always answers that it was, in fact, the Queen. When it was no longer the Queen, and the mirror replied that it was Snow White, the Queen made Snow White leave. The Queen then asked for a hunter to kill her and bring back her heart. I mean, that's pretty cold. Then there's Cinderella. When Cinderella was a young girl, her widowed father married Lady Tremaine, a widow with 2 daughters of her own. But he died shortly afterward. Jealous of her stepdaughter's beauty, are you sensing a theme? And determined to focus on her own daughter's interests, Lady Tremaine orders Cinderella to become a maid in her own chateau. She buried her with chores. Cinderella's stepsisters, Anastasia and Drizella, also took advantage of their stepsister. They teased her, and they added to her workload. When the prince held a ball, Lady Tremaine ordered Cinderella to stay home and tried to marry her daughters off to the prince. Even the princesses of my time, Ariel from The Little Mermaid, Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and Jasmine from Aladdin, were all motherless. In Frozen, Elsa and Anna lose their parents in a boating accident at sea. The only princess with both of her parents was Sleeping Beauty, and as an added bonus, she had 3 magical fairies to look over her. Why did he hate parents so much? Well, he didn't. It just turns out that he was using his own trauma to scar the rest of us. Disney didn't lose his mother as a child, but he did feel responsible for his mother's death and was haunted by it. He had bought his parents a home, and when the studio guys came to fix the furnace, his mom and dad moved in. It turned out the furnace was leaking, and his mother died. The housekeeper came the next morning and pulled his mother and father onto the front lawn. His father made it, but as I already said, his mother did not. In the end, this became a tradition, or a formula that works, or maybe just plain cruelty. So cruel, in fact, that in 2020, there was a petition on change.org asking Disney to have a benevolent stepmother. So here's hoping. So what did I want to be when I grew up? When I was a kid, I had big dreams. Did I want to be a president? A CEO? A princess? No. At the conclusion of kindergarten, in my school book, 5-year-old Erin said, "When I grow up, I want to be a Playboy bunny cocktail waitress." I was 5 years old.
It's never too late.
Thanks, baby. I was 5 years old. It was the 80s. There was no internet, no social media. Where did I get this? I'm assuming it was on TV or I had a Playboy bunny Barbie. I don't really know, but it was the 80s. In 7th grade, our guidance counselor asked us to write what our future holds. Mine went something like this. I will go to UCLA on a cheerleading scholarship and study interior design. After graduation, I will move back to the East Coast. I will marry a recent Harvard Law School graduate whose father already has an established law practice. We will move to Connecticut. We will have a house with a white picket fence. We will commute to the city for work, and we will have 2 children. My guidance counselor called my parents and asked if I was for real. My parents assured her I was, in fact, for real. However, this was before Google or email. It was before reality TV. I had lifestyles of the rich and famous, Star Search, and a library card. I mean, look at this girl. In 7th grade, I had never cheered. I had never been kissed. And really, was I going to get laid? No. At this point in my life, my only introduction to interior design was designing women. When I graduated from high school, 7th grade version of me did not come to fruition. I decided to do 2 + 2 with MCC in Oswego to become a Spanish teacher. When I started taking classes at MCC, I quickly realized that I was horrible at Spanish. And I wasn't really sure I even liked kids. It could have been years of babysitting or running the youth group at church, but my dreams of getting married and having kids started to become a nightmare. While running the youth group at church, I decided it would be great to bring back the Christmas pageant. How hard could it be? Mary, Joseph, a star, some shepherds. After a few rehearsals, I realized I was in way over my head, and I was outnumbered. And these children were unruly, and it was no longer fun. It was more like Christmas torture. So after the pageant was over, youth group was done too. As young girls, we are often told to marry up. Find yourself a doctor or a lawyer. Not me. My grandmother told me to become a doctor or a lawyer. Neither of those career paths really interest me, though. After college, I started working at Paychex. When I reported back to my grandmother that I got a job at Paychex, she simply quipped, "We all work for Paychex." We do, don't we? As I got older, having kids no longer interested me. It might have been the youth group, but I was also getting older and I had not really been with anyone that I wanted to procreate with. I decided that I no longer wanted kids, and the universe delivered. At 37 years old, I had to have a hysterectomy. It happened so fast. I don't think I really got to process it. It was about 3 weeks from diagnosis to surgery. I was lucky enough to keep an ovary, but everything else had to go. I felt pretty great until I was wheeled into the maternity floor after my surgery. A new mom saw me and yelled, "Congratulations, Mama," as I was heading to my room. It was at that moment I felt it all. I sobbed. I was never going to make a baby. After I dried my tears, I realized that I should totally be congratulated. I just birthed my uterus. I did make a choice that was best for me and for my health. However, it was months later that it hit me again. I was at church, and an older woman, don't worry, you're not here, but some of you are, heard I had just had a hysterectomy. She came over to me very concerned. "You had a hysterectomy?" "Yes." "But you don't have any children?" "I don't." "Your poor parents." "My poor parents? Yes, you're right. Their daughter's still alive." That's how I answered her. Why do women do this to other women, by the way? Also, why do we have to have kids to have value? And also, fuck that church lady. She's really not here, but some of you are. Anyway, I have to admit, I got real good at being single and living my best life. I was kind of a big deal too. Not to toot my own horn, but like toot toot, okay? I was involved in this community. I served on 2 boards. I started a bachelor auction for an organization, and it is still in existence today. In fact, I was the auctioneer at that bachelor auction, and I really do think that was my calling in life. I was out every night. I never cooked. I was at galas and parties and dinners. It was so fun. I was a borderline socialite, if Rochester had such a thing. I went to yoga retreats and writing retreats. I traveled when and where I wanted to. It was pretty great. I was dating a lot. I even had a fringe show in 2018, all about my bad online dates, called "You Are No Match for Me." I was often asked how I did it all, and I stayed looking so young. Well, I was not married, I did not have kids, and I did not own a house. You guys, that shit ages you. Also genetics. That grandma I mentioned earlier, this is her skin, and I am grateful. So here's another tip that I learned as I've gotten older: stay chubby. Do you think it's a coincidence that I don't have a single wrinkle on this chubby body? No, that's not a coincidence. And let me share another tip. When I lived alone, I had a chocolate drawer. Outside of condiments and seltzer, my refrigerator stored chocolate. The entire drawer. It was glorious. This also helps being wrinkle-free and chubby. Life was real good. So, what would I do with my fabulous 40-year-old self? I did the unthinkable. I fell in love with a man with kids. We had a sweet courtship. We would hang out with the kids, and it often included playing games. The first time we hung out, we played Boggle. I was awful. I was not going to lose again. So I downloaded the Boggle app, and I played, and I played, and I played. I got so good, I smoked everyone at that table, and now nobody will play Boggle with me. This was my first dad's girlfriend fail. Thankfully, there weren't too many others, at least that I know about. After more than a year of dating, we decided to move in together. And do you know what happened next? Lockdown. You can totally blame us. We got our keys for our place on March 15th of 2020. And then the world shut down. We were now navigating living together in a worldwide pandemic. Let me tell you something. It was not fun for any of us. First of all, in a non-COVID world, you would leave the house for the day. You would go to school or work. You would head out into the world. However, we were home all day. Except Mike. Mike was essential. How convenient for Mike. The kids and I had to learn how to navigate work and school from home and each other. I went from dad's cool girlfriend, I mean, that's how I totally viewed myself, to homeschool teacher. Talk about evil. Mike said there was days when he would get calls from all three of us. He would say, "I'm at work, figure it out." How nice for him. To be essential, and essentially no help at all. It was rough. We barely had enough Wi-Fi. We had no idea what we were doing, and we had nowhere to go. It was a good thing that we could all laugh about it now, because no one was laughing then. Especially when I took their phones at the beginning of the school day. "Miss Julian will take your phone now." This was super evil. Another thing that happened was this borderline socialite became domesticated. I mean, what choice did I have? I never cooked, so I had to learn, and I mean fast. Let me tell you something, my kitchen was lit. I made homemade bread and polenta. I made apple hand pies, and baklava. I made cornbread art, y'all. That says I love you. I took Zoom cooking classes, and I was cooking up a storm. While I was making magic in the kitchen, I also had a horrible tragedy. Mike informed me that we were no longer able to have a chocolate drawer in the refrigerator. He told me that the chocolate drawer was intended for vegetables. He took away the chocolate drawer forever. May we all now bow our heads and have a moment of silence for the chocolate drawer. Rest in peace, my friend. We all started how to learn to navigate our new reality without a chocolate drawer. I eventually stopped taking away their phones. We upgraded the Wi-Fi. And then it was December of 2020. Our essential worker brought home COVID 3 weeks before Christmas. Let me tell you how awesome that was. I was already feeling the pressure of our first Christmas as a family. And even though Mike and I were still boyfriend and girlfriend, the stepmom work was well underway. I promise you, you do not need to get married to be a stepmom. The work was already happening, with or without the title. We had to get our Christmas tree delivered. Thank you, Darling Tree Farm and their magical little elves. We had to scour the internet for presents and hope that items would arrive on time. I was so stressed out. It was mostly of my own making. I wanted Christmas to be special and to make our home have magic. But what the fuck? It is so hard. I do not know how you parents do it year over year. I was very excited to see that the Mad Hatter had homemade gingerbread house kits. I picked one up, and as a family we made a gingerbread house. Also, after searching for recipes and ideas, I landed on making cinnamon rolls for Christmas breakfast. I clearly had no idea what I was getting into. They are so much work. After presents were unwrapped and we were settled down to have our Christmas breakfast, the youngest kid said, "You did us dirty." I'm about to fully break down at this point, y'all. And then he shared this. By not making more cinnamon rolls, we're gonna have to fight who eats the last one. It turns out that our COVID Christmas was magical. And now Christmas cinnamon rolls are our thing. I was learning so much about myself in our first year of living together, and I was also having a Snow White moment and not in a good way. There were always dishes and laundry and things to clean up. I had no idea that living with people meant that I would forever be cleaning toilets. Thankfully, my sweet boyfriend could see that I could not make it as Snow White forever. He looked at me and said, "Why don't we get somebody to come and clean the house? I'll pay for it." That was such a gift. It was to be seen and to have Mike provide a solution that would certainly make life a little bit easier. I hung up my Snow White apron and welcomed a wonderful human into our home to make it sparkle. It's now spring of 2021. The world has opened up slightly more than it was. There's toilet paper again, and Clorox wipes, and occasionally I could go to the office. Because life wasn't crazy enough already, Mike proposed. Everyone except me knew. Everyone. He asked both of my parents, the kids, his parents. Gosh, the kid's mom knew, and so did her parents. I said yes, but look at those nibbled fingernails. Quarantine was stressful. As we began to plan our wedding, we knew one thing for certain. We wanted the kids to stand up for us. They agreed, and Maya was our maid of honor, and Mason was our best man. As we were planning the wedding, we asked the kids if they wanted to give a toast at the wedding. We explained that this is a tradition, however, we don't have to do anything traditionally. They took on this challenge and delivered the best toast. When people talk about our wedding, the toast is the highlight. We laughed and cried and felt the love that we shared with each other get emulated back to us by the kids. It was magical. Since our wedding 2.5 years ago, we have all grown up together. The kids to continue to amaze us and grow into themselves. We have traveled together from Boston to Barcelona, from Philly to Punta Cana. Our family bond continues to deepen, and we have an ease with each other that only comes with time. Looking back at our quarantine, I realize what a gift it really was. A connection that would normally take years had no choice but to happen in a few short but really long months. We had to find a way to be together because we had no other options. And while we were not essential in the workplace, we were essential to each other. This past Mother's Day, the kids included me. They made Mother's Day brunch at their mom's house. Around the table was their mom, their grandmothers, and me. It was an incredible honor. The kids asked their dad what I might want for Mother's Day. Mike said, "Why don't you write your feelings for Erin in a card?" And that's what they did. They used words like maternal and comfortable and insight and grateful. I was speechless, and that's really saying something. Mike got me this t-shirt. It says, "Nacho average stepmom." And I am nacho average stepmom, for sure. Anyone can have a title. President, CEO, princess, Playboy bunny, cocktail waitress, stepmom. Titles can mean so little until you know you are truly living it. I know that I am, and I know our family can see it and feel it too. A title that has been both given and earned. Stepmom. So I'm going to leave you with this. Taking out some Kleenex. Because the kids wrote me a letter for Mother's Day, I am leaving you with my letter to them. Dear Maya and Mason, it is a privilege to be your stepmom. I know that stepmom is the appropriate title, but when am I really appropriate? I'm not sure what else I should be called, but Aaron totally works. When I married your dad, I vowed to love him until the end of time. But I took that vow for both of you too. I know that I am not your mom. I would never try to fill that role. You have an awesome mom. I am here though, as a big fan of you both, and I will always be here when you need me. I do though love you as if you were both mine. While I never imagined that I would have children, I really lucked out when your dad came with a box set. I need you both to know that since I am not your parent in the traditional sense, I do see you both with a different lens than your parents. I will sometimes see things as an outsider looking in. My perspective is a unique one. I will see things differently than your parents, and this is both a blessing and a curse. I will call you out on your shit, and lucky for you, you can call me out on mine. I know it's not always easy. I am grateful for the grace that you have afforded me as I try to figure it out and get it right. I'm not always going to get it right. I have learned so much from both of you. Each lesson makes me a better person, a better partner, a better parent. I also hope you can learn from me. I hope that when you are in our home, you feel loved and cared for. I hope you see love in action when you see me with your dad. Get your heads out of the gutter. I didn't mean that kind of action. I hope when you see your dad and me, you see partners that love each other, that are attracted to each other, and that above all else, you see partners that bring joy and laughter to each other. I love that our home is filled with laughter. When we collectively laugh, my heart is the happiest. I hope you have learned other important lessons from me. Here are a few. When Dad says, "Do you need money?" you always say, "Yes, that would be great, thank you." We live and die by the calendar. Add it to the calendar or it's not going to happen. Organization and a good calendar are the key to success. I am almost always 1,000% of the time going to be right. Your dad totally loves this one the most. There are other lessons too, but these are the highlights. You are both so lucky because so many people love you. And lucky for you, no one has ever said, "I was loved too much." You both also give me so much love. You have made me a mom by love. I love you both so very much. Your stepmom. Thank you. Mike totally told me to bring Kleenex. I honestly cannot thank you all enough for being here tonight, for supporting me, for coming to Fringe, for coming to Rock Cinema. And for those of you who have been to all 4 of my shows, you've been on quite a journey, and I love you and I thank you. Have a wonderful night.